is a big argument about that the reason why China is decreasing poverty has to do with the rapid economic growth that they are experiencing. I think that what we have seen in Latin America is that, of course, economic growth helps. There are more resources for governments to use and to put into fighting poverty, but it's always very important to how you use those resources. So for that, you also need effective poverty reduction strategies. And this is one of the experiences that we have in Latin America, that the moment in which we have experienced in this diminishing in poverty and inequality has to do with both factors, basically. The fact that we are growing, macroeconomic stability, and also we're growing at an important rate, but also some innovative and very effective poverty reduction strategies have been put in place. So it's always important to look at both. In addition to obviously you need more like a stronger institutionality to put in practice those strategies. Well, in Latin America we have this particular case in which migrants, of course, are they are coming from rural areas, but they are also, we have a phenomenon in Latin America that the urban to urban migration accounts for basically 50% of those movements. They are all looking for better conditions, of course, living conditions. But yeah, I think it's Latin America the only region that is having that so far in the developing world. It's not just from rural areas, but also between cities. Latin America is also one of the regions in which, for example, intermediate cities, what we consider those cities with populations between 100,000 and 2 million people, more or less, are growing very fast. They are approximately 140 cities in the region. And many times the rural migration comes goes from the rural area to these small cities, or sometimes to larger cities. So it's just basically how they accommodate where they go. But as the case I was giving before, those are the cities that are growing faster economically and also in terms of population. So it's basically just how they accommodate in the system. I was listening to the Chinese today speaking about the concept of people living under $2 per day, and I've come in Latin America we use the concept of people living under $2.50. So it's hard. It's hard to establish like concrete and simple kind of definitions or numbers, but the range, I think, is that the only way we can manage those kind of statistics, and we have to be very careful. The other thing is that, for example, the regions are very heterogeneous, and sometimes these statistics rely on the information that the countries themselves gather, and they don't always have the means or the rigorosity to gather and provide that information. We are having very recently, the periods of times, the situation with, for example, Argentina and some of the way they collect some of their information. So I think we have to be very careful how you use those numbers. I believe that the reason why we have some success in this kind of relative success in the use of some poverty alleviation strategies has to do with this sharing of experience. And in Latin America, it's been very active. I mentioned the case of, for example, conditional cash transfers, that they have been used from one place to another with certain, the concept of those have been used, but they have been adapted to the particular needs. And this is only one program. The integrated neighborhood or upgrading, it has been the same kind of situation. And there are other programs that have gone through the same situation in which they have been implemented, designed and implemented in one particular country, and with the experience of that country have been adapted to other countries. This is in Latin America. I don't know if those countries and if countries in other parts of the world can use those strategies. And I don't know if it could be effective or not. What I think is important to see is that they should respond to local conditions and local environments and local demands. What I think are important, and what we, for example, we mentioned of those programs, the CCTs and the integrated neighborhood upgrading, are the concepts that are behind them. For example, what I mentioned before, the understanding of poverty as a multidimensional phenomenon. It's not only about income, it's not only about low consumption rate. It has to do with all the levels of vulnerability that affects the poor. For example, health, education, employment, environmental risks, all those kind of things. And this kind of integrated or complex understanding of poverty should be taken into account. Not how you implement or how you define or design a specific strategy. It's more understanding what is behind those, what could be useful. The same can be said about, for example, coordination of different social programs. It's not exactly how you coordinate, it's not exactly how you do it, but you have to understand that it's necessary, this coordination. These are the kind of things that I think are important to take from one country to another, from one region to another. In the case of Latin America, obviously, is much has been more simpler because we share so many cultural and economic kind of similarities, and I think that has helped. Now, going to a different kind of countries or regions, we should be very careful on how you adapt or adopt these strategies, certainly.